Man, Cory, Gautereaux, how in the hell are you doing, buddy?
I'm good. It's a beautiful day here in Pine Valley, California. I'm looking out at the property. There's some horses that aren't mine, that's the best kind. It's like a boat, right? You want to go on the boat, but you don't want to own the boat. So I get to look at them. I don't have to pay for them.
Nice. Do you get to ride them?
I haven't asked because I don't know. There might be a weight limit. I don't know how that works.
You got to check the rear, man. It's on the sticker on the back.
The door tag.
Yeah, just pull the tail up and check it, man. It's right there.
No, I'm good.
Oh, shit, man. So you start your morning off with some fucking brown nectar, man?
You know what I start my morning off with?
Man.
Come on.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a special freaking red, white, and badass brew roast just for FU California. Oh, man.
And people think that, people are going to think, he's just doing that because he wants to sell it. Now, I actually do drink it. I not really a coffee connoisseur. I don't really care what coffee I drink, but I drink yours because we buy it from you. So you could put 20 cups of coffee in front of me. I couldn't tell you the difference because I put peppermint mocha cream in there.
You know what? I like peppermint mocha cream, man. As a matter of fact, around the Christmas time, I'm going to make a peppermint mocha. But your customers are the ones that like it because they keep coming back for it.
They keep coming back. They like both the ground and the whole bean, and it seems to be doing pretty well.
Fuck yeah, man! I love it when I get a plug, dude. That's awesome. Right at the rip, man.
Plugs are great.
They are, and. Nice, hot, brown, beautiful nectar just hits my tongue like a savory sip should. Wow, I just did my 1-800 voice on there.
So that's your studio you got there?
This is it, man. This is it. So check this out, man. I've known you for a little bit now, and we've talked, but I didn't know that you really had some hardship, gone on in your life. And not everybody goes through the same hardship, and yours really didn't. You had a pretty good childhood, man. So you didn't really start your hardship kind of until you had shoulder surgery.
No, yeah, you're right. I mean, I had a very good childhood. I didn't have to worry about anything. My parents were great. My dad worked hard. My mom stayed home and raised my brothers and I, and we saw what hard work was, but I guess we didn't really understand it because I still got smacked a lot. I don't want there to be any confusion there. There was discipline, but we never had to worry about food on the table or things like that. I never even crossed my mind until I got old enough to understand that people had those problems. So it was, what's that quote? Soft times create soft men, hard times create, or whatever that quote is. So at the time, before September 11th, it was my generation was raised pretty soft, as we now know. It's created.
I wouldn't say soft. I wouldn't say soft though, man. I mean, I think our generation, maybe a little softer than the previous generation, but you're saying smacked. I got the same thing, man.
Well, so we have the greatest generation, right?
Yeah.
Depression, World War II, everything. And then that led to our parents who they went through the Cold War, the Gulf War, maybe some of them Vietnam. And then that's when the media started changing and was going against the war, and people were coming home. And my uncle was in the 101st Airborne, and when he came home from Vietnam, came back and landed in San Francisco, and that didn't go well, as you can imagine.
Sure. And the quote you're talking about, man, was hard times create strong men create good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times.
Yeah, I was paraphrasing. Yes. Man. So we were kind of in the middle there, right? Where it was it was good times, but it wasn't the Great Depression. We weren't scrounging for gasoline and stuff like that. So I got to the point where I was playing football, like you said, hurt my shoulder, ended up having to get shoulder surgery. I tore my labrum, and they went in and reconstructed it. It was open surgery, and that's when it was I think the early 2000s. So kind of when the whole opiate thing started. Or maybe towards the middle of it. I'm not really sure. But that took me down a dark path where, I don't feel any pain anymore. Not just physical, but emotional as well. And growing up without having to deal with, parents being divorced or worrying about food on the table, et cetera. Anytime something would happen, I did not have the resiliency to get past it. I didn't know what to do. So those Norcos that you take for your shoulder, they start helping negatively in other ways in your life.
So you use the opiates to really just start coping kind of with like, hey, why is this happening to me? This kind of sent you down a depression state, having your shoulder surgery, which, I mean, that's understandable, right? You're like, oh man, what's going on? But you really kind of been taken care of your whole life. So resiliency wasn't a thing for you. It was just, you were like, wow, now I'm broken. Now what? And
it was confusing. So, and at that point, I'm in high school. So what questions do I have? I'm trying to just learn things on my own, right? What question? I don't know I didn't know what questions to ask at the time. What am I supposed to do? How do I get over this? Who do I talk to? Things like that. It was just, I'm just going to go through this and I'll figure it out. I guess I wasn't even thinking ahead at that time.
So the opiates took a hold of you, man, and kind of started now 100%. Created addiction. So now you're addicted to it. What 100%. Did that addiction look like to you? What road did you go down?
I went very, very low. I had at the time, well, just to say now, I have a beautiful wife and two beautiful daughters. But at the time, back in high school, I had a high school sweetheart girlfriend, and that was ruined from that. I lost some friends. We've made up since then, but it does, just like you said, it takes a hold of you and makes you do things that aren't you. My ethics and values kind of went out the window, and you can't see it. People all around can tell you you're being stupid, and until you see it, there's nothing you can do about it.
How did the friendships and the relationship get ruined? Like, what I know the opiates caused it, but what did you do?
I turned into a different person. I was mean. Became very mean. Mean and very short fuse. And that's not me. And you know me now. I'm pretty easygoing, pretty laid back dude. So
yeah, I wouldn't want to see you mean, man.
Looking back, it's sad to see that, or sad to think that was me at one point, but I've moved past it, and I know how many, not just veterans, but how many people have had to deal with that or are dealing with it, and it's not easy.
No, I mean, opiate addiction is hell, man. Addiction period is just hell. You go down this road, and it really consumes your life. I mean, because now you're not thinking about a job or a girlfriend or a friendship. You're just thinking about, how the fuck am I going to get my next fix?
And at that time, it was the doctors. They were just, I had prescriptions.
And they just refill the prescriptions just willy-nilly. Like, yep, need more.
Yeah, I think at one point I was taking like 12 Norcos a day. And I was not the size that I am now. I was probably 185, 190 pounds. So And yeah, I get them refilled, no problem. I know things have changed drastically since then. Well, we'll get into it later, but I've worked in healthcare, and you can't even go to the ER and get opiates unless your legs cut off or something crazy at this point. So the pendulum has swung so far in the other direction. It's interesting.
Well, it's still an epidemic.
Yeah.
No.
Oh yes.
I mean,
fentanyl.
Yeah, man. We'll definitely be getting into that. So you went down. Now you're going through this dark road. How did you recover from the opiate addiction?
My family actually, I kind of quit cold turkey on. Well, I tried to wean off the last of what I had, and then I stopped and ran out and got very, very sick. It was miserable, achy. Your whole body hurts. It's like the flu times 1,000, and it was a difficult time for my what I put my family through was very difficult as well, because they were just trying to help me, but at the same time they didn't know what I needed. I didn't know what I needed. It's a messy situation.
So you didn't go to rehab?
No.
Wow. You know what? That's awesome that they were actually there to help you and, got you to health, because that is I don't think that's a very common thing.
I probably wouldn't be here if they weren't there to help me.
Probably not. 12, I don't know that much about Norcos or opiates, to be 100% honest, but I do know taking 12 is probably not recommended by a doctor. Maybe 1 or 2, maybe.
Yep.
But popping 12 a day, man, that is insane, dude. So you got healthy, man. Your parents were there, and really they kind of bonded around you, gathered around you, and like, all right, man, we're here. Very supportive. It sounds like they're pretty supportive parents. And they were like, hey, we're here with you, man. Did that bring you guys closer?
No, not at the time. Because I was still, you don't lose the mentality immediately, right? It's you're still mean, you're still angry, you're still I think a lot of it stems from confusion. How did this happen? How did this happen to me? Why did this happen to me? A lot of blaming, right? A lot of why me? A victim mentality. Why me? And I'm sure we'll talk about it lately, but I don't put up with that shit anymore.
Yeah.
There's no why me. Why me? What? Make it be me. I'd rather be me than somebody else. Am I supposed to pick somebody else for it to be? No, I'll go through it.
Yeah.
I'll get through it.
Yeah. You gotta stop blaming everybody else, man. And look at the inside, look yourself in the mirror and be like, you're the one causing this. Nobody else, man. That's that's powerful. What would you give advice to somebody who is addicted to opiates or an addict, to help them kind of get over, 1, that mentality, but 2, the addiction?
I have a very good friend who is an alcoholic, has been for a long time. And I talk to him very frequently, at least once a month, a couple times a month. And the hardest part about addiction is that I could call him every day and say, hey, come live in my house. We'll take care of you. We'll do whatever we need. But that's not going to solve his problems until he's ready to accept it and then reach out and say, okay, I'm ready to do this. There's not much I can do. And that's the hardest part about addiction, is that we want to help all these people, right? But you can't help someone who doesn't want to help themselves.
Yep, they got to hit their rock bottom.
And sometimes that's unfortunately death.
That's a big part of it, man. That is a, one thing that is not guaranteed. That's guaranteed in life, but that's a quicker road to it, is not getting help could lead to death. And that could be that rock bottom, and hope to God, people will actually go out there and get help, because we have resources for people to get help.
We do have a ton of resources. The VA has a lot of resources. The county has a lot. We live in San Diego County, obviously. The county has a lot of resources. It's just pride. Pride is a big factor, especially with veterans. I'm too proud to go get help, or veterans, males. But yeah, pride, and they're just not ready to accept the fact that there's different steps in accepting it, right? There's accepting that, okay, yeah, I shouldn't be doing this, but there's way too much stuff going on in my life, and I have to suppress it with XYZ, whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
And so you try and rationalize things to yourself, I'm not taking those for that reason anymore. I'm taking it for this reason now. So, or I'm drinking because it was a bad day, whatever the case may be. But
yeah, absolutely, man. I was addicted to porn, and it was several times a day, and I really didn't think there was a problem, until I started kind of talking to people, and they were like, dude, you know what that affects? And then I started researching it, and I was like, oh my God. And I got off of it, and not immediately, but almost immediately. The dopamine in my brain was like, hey, you're not giving me that high. You're not giving me that high, because I also lost satisfaction with having sex with real women. I mean, because I'm not getting the pornographic sex with real women, and it caused a problem. I mean, It did. It caused a huge problem. It caused intimacy issues. It was gnarly, man. So
it's interesting that let me ask you a question. So when you stopped that, did you replace that loss of dopamine with something else?
Yeah, I did. So when holy shit, I would be jacked all day long if I drank my coffee. I mean, I'd be freaking bouncing off the wall. I'd be running on the walls, man. I wouldn't wear out the carpet. I'd just wear out the walls. I did. So I started doing a little bit something different. So every time I thought about it, I'd go do 10 push-ups. So I was like, hey, do 10 push-ups. Boom, 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 boom.
It's like the rubber band thing.
Yeah. But I don't really do a whole lot of push-ups anymore because I don't think about it. Now I just do push-ups. I'm not thinking about porn. I'm thinking about now my mental health and my physical health. It took a toll. It was kind of crazy, actually. It actually changed the way I started thinking, and talked to Tony about this, and freaking my head got a lot clearer. And that's what was amazing about it. It was just like, wow, like I'm not getting that dopamine. Now I'm getting back to
a baseline.
A baseline. Well, a new normal, right? Because once you're an addict, and I think once you're, you've been injured or something like that, you're never normal. You're never going to go back the way you were.
So that's a good point you brought up there. You're never normal. And I think that we need to point out that nobody's normal.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
There is no normal.
Yeah, what is normal?
You're the weirdest guy I know.
Shit. I like to keep it weird, man,
People think that they strive to just be the status quo or I just need to get right here and everything will be good. No, that's not how it works.
Well, we'll definitely, so we're going to do it. So we'll get into it. We're going to keep going with your story, man. And we'll do that conversation piece after, man, because I do want to get into this. So you kick the dopamine, or you kick the dopamine. See, I'm thinking about dope, man. You kick the the opiate addiction.
Yep.
And then how did your life kind of change from that point on, right? So you kicked it, and then what, after you kicked the opiate addiction, what happened?
So I still had all the problems that I had before, all the resiliency issues, no way of coping, and again, this is not I'm not blaming anyone on this, but I was not taught how to cope. And that's my problem, not anybody else's problem. I'm pretty sure the internet was around and there's lots of books that I could have read. And I didn't. So yeah, I ended up leaving. I went to Montana State University so I'm from here, from San Diego, went to Valhalla High School. Then I went to Montana State University with a friend. I can tell you right now, school is not for me. I need to be hands-on, or I don't do well in a classroom. I don't do well sitting around for very long. So I did really good in some of the classes that I really enjoyed. Business, entrepreneurship was one of them. And the rest of them, I don't really remember going to them all that much. But I did have a great time in Bozeman, Montana. That was fun. Made some great friends. I was there for a year, and I still talk to a lot of the people that I was there with.
So you didn't really enjoy college, which I
enjoyed college. I didn't enjoy school.
Oh, okay, gotcha. And so you went to. So then you dropped. You kind of left college.
Yeah, I ended up going. I bounced around different colleges. I went to Cal State, Hayward for a little bit. That didn't work out, and then came back to San Diego. Went to some different schools around here. I ended up. I had some friends I had a really good friend that was a firefighter for Sequan at the time, and one of the Indian reservations here in San Diego. And I said, maybe that's more what I want to do, because I enjoyed football. I enjoyed the physical activities and being part of a team, right? So I was trying to figure out how to do that. And meanwhile, still never really resolving any of these issues that I had before. So I joined the San Diego County Fire Authority Reserve Program, and I think it was 2008. And I worked at the Boulevard, California station as a firefighter EMT. And that's kind of when I got the taste for medicine. I really liked the medical calls. Not so much, I really don't like the heat. I've got my mini split air conditioning and my regular air conditioning on right now. So I wasn't really about the heat or getting into a fire, but the medical stuff I really enjoy. It's solving a problem, and you're able to solve a problem, see a problem, solve a problem, and see the results immediately or not, right? And that's a big. I've learned that's a big thing for me, is to be able to see results quickly, which on the flip side of that, I've had to teach myself to be very patient.
So but you didn't stick with that, man. You left that industry and went to the military, right?
So that was I got very, it takes a lot of work to become a firefighter. You have to go to school. Now you have to be a paramedic most places. And while I liked it, I didn't enjoy it that much. So yeah, it was summertime, and I wasn't going anywhere. I think I was about 21, and I'd already been to all the bars downtown and PB, and I already did that whole scene, and I was kind of over it. So I said, well, I don't want to join the Navy, because then I might get stationed here. I want to do the Marines, because then I might get stationed here. So join the Army. My grandfather was in the Army. My uncle was in the Army. So join the Army.
Yeah, kept the heritage alive, man. Kept the tradition alive.
Yeah.
So you joined the Army, man. What did you do in the Army?
I picked the best job for when you get out that you can transfer to a civilian job, which is a helicopter door gunner. There are so many helicopter door gunner civilian jobs in the market.
I don't even know. Maybe Legoland would be about where, like, maybe operate a carnival ride. I don't even know. Like,
so I kind of just threw myself in, and I didn't know what I had a little bit of drive, but I had no path on what I wanted to do. I was very confused, and I didn't realize that, now, however old I am, with 36, that I still don't know what I want to do, and I'm okay with that, right? But 10, 15 years ago, that scared the crap out of me, because my father worked at Cox Communications for 40 years. Same job for 40 years. My older brother worked at Sport Chalet for a very long time, probably 20 years. And I thought that's what you were supposed to do. And I'm like, yeah, I can't do this. There's no way I could do this. So that's when I just threw all my eggs in the basket and enlisted as a 15 Tango UH-60 helicopter mechanic.
So you went in as a mechanic, but then
go ahead.
Then you segued into being a door gunner. How did that happen?
So when you enlist as the Army doesn't have an MOS or a job specialty for a crew chief or a flight engineer. You have to actually learn how to be a mechanic on the helicopter first, and then you can get selected to be a crew chief. So sometimes it's out of necessity, like, hey, we don't have any crew chiefs. We need you. Get over here. We'll teach you. Sometimes it's out of that's not how it usually happens. How it usually happens is you show some interest that you want to be a crew chief. Some people want to be mechanics, and because they want to get it, they're a little smarter than me. They want to be mechanics and then get out of the Army and go work on airframes, like Boeing or whoever, and make a lot of money working on aircraft. They don't want to be the crew chief shooting the machine gun or working the hoist, because there's no jobs in the civilian world, or very few jobs.
Right. I mean, that's a cool job. That sounds like a cool job. In real time, it's cool. But after it's over, you're kind of like, now what? But what did you do? Where did you get stationed at? And the show wouldn't be made possible without our sponsors, Red, White, and Badass Brew, and Go Man Go Productions. Your vision is our mission, because we see it too.
Baby, I can't make a move. Like a child, a star for love that flows to the sea. Baby, if you run away, baby, if you leave, I'm so in love with you, girl. You make me feel brand new. Come on, give it up to me. Let me take care of you. I know that your mama said I'm gonna make you cry.
I went to from here. I went to Fort Benning, Georgia, and if I never go to Georgia again, that would be great. It was miserable.
The
humidity, and then all of a sudden the next day it was just freezing. It was so cold. It was nice. My grandfather and my older brother showed up at graduation and surprised me. So my grandfather drove a tank in the Battle of the Bulge. So that was pretty cool to have him there. It was a good experience. Wow. So I came home for on leave for a little bit, then went to my advanced training at Fort Eustis, Virginia, and that's where we did the mechanic stuff. Then I got sent to. So it was weird timing. Right at that time, there was some stuff going on with North Korea, and we got a bunch of people from my class had been sent to South Korea, and right at that time, North Korea sunk a South Korean ship with a torpedo from a submarine. The Chonon was the name of the ship, and it was very unusual because the classes prior to us, they were getting sent out all over the country, and especially to units that were getting ready to deploy to Iraq or Afghanistan. And then me and a bunch of guys are like, where are we going? We're going to Korea? I thought this was like September 11th, and I guess we're going to Korea. So that turned into I was there for 14 months. It was a very, very interesting time. Very interesting place.
Yeah. What did you do in North Korea or in South Korea?
Well, first of all, I'm a giant in Korea, so it's kind of awkward going around, in a bus station or something like that. Excuse me, I'm going to pour some coffee right now.
Yeah. Just don't spill it. That stuff's like gold.
I know. You mean the cost or the?
Well, that too.
So I went about becoming a crew chief a different way. My platoon sergeant went out on emergency leave. The E6 stepped up to take over as a platoon sergeant, and I took him out and got him really drunk and said, "Hey, I want to go to Alpha Company." And the next day, my papers were in for Alpha Company. That was the VIP unit in Korea. So we flew around. Congressmen, senators, generals, cheerleaders, any of the VIPs that came to the peninsula. And then our secondary mission was air assault. So we trained for air assault while we were there as well. And then I did get to fly a little bit with the medevac unit while I was there.
Gotcha. When you were with the air assault in this VIP unit, did you kind of play some war games with North Korea?
Yeah. So it's such a weird situation over there. North Korea, they like to poke the bear, was us being the bear, not like you and I had bears. That's not what I meant. The United States being the bear. So they run out of food or whatever it is, gas. Then they'll fire some missiles off, or they'll shoot across, or they'll do something to get the U.S. or South Korea's attention, and then we'll give them some rice, and they'll shut up for a while. So it's just this constant game going back and forth. I actually was very lucky. We took a general had just flown in from the U.S. We picked him up at Osan Air Force Base in Korea, and flew him up to the DMZ. When you fly up to the DMZ, you fly real low and real fast. And you get up there, you land in the DMZ. There's these tank traps everywhere. It's very surreal. It's very Cold War looking. It's interesting to see from above. Not very many people get to see that. I mean, you can go on Google Earth and see it, but not very many people get to see that in real time, because there's a line called the Papa 518 that you can't cross as a civilian in an aircraft. Only military can cross that line. And once you cross that line, everything is supposed to be secret. So we get up there, and the general gets out, and I do the whole salute and everything. He takes off, and then a guy, a butter bar, comes up and says, "Hey, you guys want to go on the tour?" I was just going to take a nap in the helicopter until they were done. And I said, "You want to go on the tour with them?" So we got to go on the tour. It was probably one of the coolest tours I've ever been on. The most dangerous golf course in the world is located at the DMZ. It's a one-hole golf course sitting on top of a bunker. The tee box is on top of a not a sand bunker, an actual bunker, and it's surrounded on three sides by minefields. So we're standing there. So you can look across and see North Korea right there. So we're standing there, and he's explaining it to us. And all of a sudden, this deer just starts hopping through the minefield. And we're like, oh my God, this is going to be the craziest thing ever. We were all, so the general they were already past us. And so we could act normal, right? And we, like, the pilots were like, should we place bets on this? What do we do? And this deer just hops right through this minefield, just clear, does not touch one mine, goes right through the whole thing. We're like, how did that just happen?
Wow.
So I got a cool picture in front of the most dangerous golf course in the world. We got to go to the general's mess hall, and they have their own cook there, and it was the behind the scenes tour of the DMZ. So one thing we learned was that there's something like 300 armistice violations per day at the DMZ. You're not allowed to bring automatic weapons into the DMZ area. Not from the U.S. side, from the North Korean side. Well,
okay, gotcha.
Both sides aren't allowed to do that. So there's an agreement, right? Technically, the Korean War has never ended. Technically, the Korean War is still going on right now. There's never been anything signed ending the war, which is kind of unusual. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, no kidding.
So, the behind the scenes tour was cool and explained how. I think there was I can't remember. There's a museum that we got to go to while we were up there, and I can't remember if it was two gentlemen, two soldiers. They went to go find an observation point. This was years ago, and there was a tree in the way. So they went to go cut down the tree, and they were killed by North Korean soldiers. So the general at the time sent the entire army on that peninsula, Air Force, Army, everything. He sent every single person to go cut down that tree.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a really cool story. I'm obviously paraphrasing it, but and so
we didn't retaliate though? We didn't go back and we didn't go and,
so it's a double-edged sword, because what do you do with these people who are so brainwashed that they don't know how to? So people that defect and come to South Korea, they don't assimilate well with South Koreans, and I don't know if it's a racism thing or I'm not sure. I watched some documentaries on it, and they basically just say that they don't fit in well. They don't get what to do. They don't understand how society works, right? So if we retaliate, if we say, hey, let's just, why don't we just get rid of this dude? And that regime will fall apart in a half a second. Well, what's going to happen? Half of them are going to go to China. The other half are going to try and come through the DMZ into South Korea. And then South Korea is just overloaded with refugees, basically, right? So it's a difficult. I don't know how you solve that problem.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like an unsolvable problem, and not only that, but you take out the leader, somebody who's probably worse than him is going to step up.
Yeah, like the cartels as usual.
Yeah, they're going to step up and take charge. And nothing really is going to change. We can't change a country. You know what I mean? That it's like a addict, right? We can't change them. They have to change within themselves.
Yeah, if they change internally, then that's probably the only way that they would ever change.
But you play cat and mouse though with North Korea a lot, right? Like we'd kind of entice them to like, hey, do something to us. Come on, poke the bear. They were poking the bear. We were poking the bear. Like, come on, let's get something going here.
So we didn't, we don't necessarily just sit back and watch them play these stupid games, right? We would fly up into these corridors, and there's observation posts, and we would resupply them, and we fly in these corridors, and they know we're there. So we have they have SAM missiles somehow. They also have Little Bird helicopters, which are made in the United States. So, yeah.
Got me there. North Korea has Little Bird helicopters.
Mm-hmm. We had to take a vehicle identification class, and it showed us all the different vehicles they had, which are very similar to some of the older vehicles that the United States military had back in the day. But yeah, so they have Little Bird helicopters, and what was the other thing that I said before that?
The similar cars before that. And
the SAM missiles. So we fly up in these corridors, and you can hear missile lock. So there could be some 12-year-old kid down there. All he's got to do is push a button, we're gone.
Wow. So you're flying around, and your bird is telling you like, hey, they got a lock on you. Get the fuck out.
So there's a couple, to answer the question, yes. And there's a couple, but at the same time, we don't know if that's South Korean, because we're in between both of them, right? So we're flying in the middle of South, and we're not necessarily in the DMZ. We're right up alongside it. So it could be a South Korean, some sort of missile that they have that's locking on to us. Some kind of missile's locking onto us. And it's weird because there's a noise in my car when I get in my truck, if you get too close to somebody when you're driving on the freeway or something, or you slam on the brakes, it makes the same exact beeping noise and drives me insane.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's nerve-wracking.
First time I did it scared the crap out of me, but so we'd fly around up there, and there was one point where we were flying, and these are just regular training missions. The language for aviation across the world is English, but when you're in other people's countries, it's not necessarily the case. So some people don't like to talk on the radio. Some people do. If we see another aircraft, we try to call them and say, "Hey, we're over here. Just make sure you see us." And sometimes the South Koreans would reply. Sometimes they wouldn't. But we were flying in out of one of the corridors one time, and all of a sudden the pilot, as we're turning around to come back, a pilot notices a Little Bird coming from the north side of the DMZ, which was North Korea. We had no other way to discern where that had come from. So he turned in a way that I could see it. So I'm hanging out on the side of the helicopter watching it, trying to watch it, and we're flying nap of the earth, which means you're flying right above rooftops, treetops, and up that far towards the DMZ. It's little, we're not talking about skyscrapers or anything. We're talking about like little huts, and there people are living in farms, rice paddies, that kind of stuff. We're flying real low, real fast, and I'm trying to watch this Little Bird, and he's trying to keep the aircraft so I can see it. So there's a lot of crew coordination going on. And crew coordination is very difficult. Once you are in take a little bit of a segue here, because we'll go into relationships later probably. So when you're in stressful situations and you have that level of crew coordination, it can be detrimental to your relationships once you get out of the military. And we can talk about that later, but just remind me. So I'm telling him how to position the helicopter so I can see it. He's just trying to get the hell out of there. There's some code words that we use if you're up there and something goes wrong. We're at the point where should we say something? Should we say it? Because if you use that code word, the Air Force, all hell is going to break loose. The Air Force comes through with the A-10s and shit's going to hit the fan. And you're going to be in a very long briefing if you use that code word at the wrong time. But again, you don't want to die. So we end up flying, and I don't even know how long that went on for. We did go back. So we broke up. It finally broke off and went back north, and we just hauled ass back down south. We don't know if it was a South Korean helicopter or North Korean helicopter. We don't know what it was. It could have been just a South Korean helicopter screwing with us and training and not talking to us on the radio, or it could have been a North Korean helicopter. It was a very surreal experience to be chased by another helicopter.
And also, obviously, little birds have weapons.
Yes, they can.
Yeah. So, I mean, it could be, deadly. It's not just a helicopter flying around, with nothing on it. It's got payloads. It's got weapons.
And it wasn't just like, hey, we're behind you for a little bit. It was, they were behind us for a lot of it, and we were going real fast.
Yeah. I mean, shit, I'd be nervous. First time I was in a helicopter, they shot the flares off. Man, my ass cheeks clenched up so damn tight. I was with a bunch of SEALs, and literally, I was sitting between the dude's legs, and we were packed in tight. And we had an interpreter that was strung across us. He was laying across us. It was a fucked up mess, man. And so we're sitting there, and all of a sudden they shoot flares, man. And I'm like, oh God, this is how I'm going to die. And I clench up, and this fucking SEAL behind me, I say whisper in my ear, but you're not whispering in a helicopter.
No.
He goes, can you do that again? And I was like, oh my God. I was like, that's too much, man. I'm like, I'm over here trying to act like a hard ass, because and I've never been, with these guys before. So I don't know these guys. My first time with them, and I fucking jump at flares, man. Yeah. And I have no idea why they shot the flares off.
Sometimes they randomly go off.
Yeah, this could have been and we were flying low, man. We were going into a compound. So we were going into a compound in the middle of Afghanistan. And
maybe it's like, hey, we want you to know we're here. Or sometimes, because the button's right there, sometimes you can bump into the button.
It's probably an interpreter, just like, oh, shiny things. Oh, man. It was funny when we landed. These guys were talking, and they know each other. And I'm over here like, what are they doing? And I was like, oh, I get the gist. So they were talking, and they opened the door up and flung the interpreter out. I mean, just tossed him out like a rag doll. So I was like, flip. I was like, that is funny. He hits the ground. He's kind of like, like, what the hell's going on? I'd follow suit, jump out with him. And the guy's just still on the ground going like, what do I even do? It was
interpret.
Well, there was no talking at that moment. But man, they had us dialed in though. We landed, and about 2 minutes later, they shot, I think, a mortar or RPG in that general direction. They had us locked in pretty good. I was like, oh my God. That was my first taste of combat. I was like, yep, I'm going to die.
Yeah. They say, well, in Vietnam, the helicopter pilot and crew chief's lifespan were not very long, but they say if you do 20 years as a crew chief or a helicopter pilot, you'll be in an accident at some point.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure they would. Yeah, it was crazy. But after that time, I loved flying in helos. So you got medically retired, right? Out of the medically separated?
Yeah, medically separated, yeah.
Because you had, military is hard on the body. And so you had some issues. So they medically separated you. And when you did that, when you got medically separated, what did you do after that?
So actually, when I got out, I was medically separated from my back. I had bulging discs, and you can't fly. You lose your flight status at that point. So the military definitely helped me gain a lot of resiliency. So at that point, I had way more than before, but I was still, now I'm older. I'm older. I have no degree. I can shoot a machine gun out of a helicopter, and that's about it. So I called a buddy who was up in North Dakota and said, "Hey, I'm getting out. Can I, you have any jobs up there?" He was working in the oil fields, in the Bakken oil fields, and yeah, come on up. We'll get you a job. And so I got out of the Army in January and didn't look at the weather in North Dakota in January. I suggest if you ever go to North Dakota, don't go in January. It was miserable.
Yeah, because it's snowing and it's full-fledged winter.
It was minus 42 when I showed up.
Yeah, that's not no bueno.
So I worked in the oil fields for a while. I don't know, another probably 6 or 8 months. Yeah, this isn't what I want to do. But at that point, I just needed some money. I was getting out. I had no idea what I wanted to do. The GI Bill is huge. I think everybody should use it, whether or not trade school or regular school. But I ended up going back, since I was in North Dakota, I went back to Montana State. So at that point, I was a little bit older, and I again changed majors like 4 times. Still had no idea what I wanted to do. I was working as a bouncer, living above the bar, drinking a lot, very confused. And I was at a point where I was kind of lost. Where do I'm getting older. All my friends around me have now graduated. All my friends that I went to school with, high school with, have now graduated. And I've got, what am I doing? I live downtown. I'm drinking every day. And it seems like I just keep running away from these problems instead of hitting them head on.
So what did you do? How'd you head on the problems?
I think I finished out the year there at school, and I wanted to get into, I liked the flying stuff, but then I remembered that from before that I enjoyed the medical stuff, and my EMT had lapsed, so I went and got my EMT again. And then I said, let me move back to San Diego, run away from my problems again. And let's see what I can figure out when I get there. And when I got back here, it was just a mess. It made me even more depressed. My friends were even further. Some were even going to law school and things like that. And then I had some toxic friends who weren't, helping me go anywhere, get anywhere. And that goes back to the saying, surround yourself with people that are smarter than you.
Sure.
And if I'm ever in a room and I'm the smartest person in the room, then there's a lot of dumb people in that room. So
so you went back.
Yeah, I moved back to San Diego, and then I was just trying to find a job. It was pretty hard to find. I had no skills.
Yeah.
So the one skill I have is sales, and I didn't really know how to exploit that at the time. I've always been good at talking to people, so I went on Craigslist, and I was going all these job websites. Finally, find this job for credit card processing sales on Craigslist, which it's just cutthroat. And I go to Arizona, get some training in the call center a little bit, just so we could see what it was like. And then I would go on these calls. It was like 3 to 5 a day. I'd go to like your business and say, hey, how's your credit card process? You get the calls just like I do, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I can lower your rate. I'm not lowering your rate. It's all BS, right? And I started to feel bad because I was locking these people into locking these small businesses into long-term contracts that were screwing them over. And I'm like, this is not for me. So I at the time I was living in. My friend had bought a house and he was remodeling it, and I was living on a mattress in his kitchen and getting dressed up to go to these calls to look like a professional business person, and then coming back and living in a mattress, and then in the kitchen, and then finally they started to move in, so I had to move out. So then I would go on. I was on Tinder and other things, just going from place to place, trying to find a place to sleep for a while.
Wait, so you would hook up with these women, and you're just using them for a place to sleep? Like, I have to stay here for a while. Like,
I have two daughters, so I would not hook up with any women.
Oh, yeah, wink, wink, nod, nod.
I would make friends with them via the internet.
Yeah, just short-term roommates with benefits.
And so, yeah, I mean, it wasn't. I was trying to find someone to date at the same time, so it was mutually beneficial for me, I guess you could say. And I'm like, this is not any way to live. So I remember just being out of money. I just got in a car accident. And everything was, it was just I felt all this weight was on top of me. Right. And then I said, I just need to start school. So respiratory school started on Monday. I signed up. It was like a Thursday. I signed up and to become a respiratory therapist, went through school and didn't really like it too much the first years, mostly in class. And then they sent you out to the hospital. Once I got to the hospital, I'm like, man, this is something that I could do.
So you found a passion. You found something that you really enjoyed as respiratory therapist.
It wasn't necessarily the job. It was the helping people and seeing the immediate result. Right.
Nice. Yeah.
I'm kind of an immediate result kind of guy, which is difficult, but I'm working on it.
Work in progress.
Yeah.
So you went to respiratory therapist school. You went through that, and how was it being a respiratory therapist?
The respiratory therapist is kind of like the redhead stepchild of the hospital. They don't really make very much money for the hospital. They're the way I explain it is you're the paramedic of the hospital. When shit hits the fan, they call the RT, because when somebody's not breathing, that's a problem. So they call the respiratory therapist. I worked at Sharp Grossmont, and then I went over to the trauma center at UCSD. And Sharp Grossmont I learned more there than I probably have in my entire life. There was one respiratory therapist in the emergency department, and I kind of positioned myself in a place. Nobody liked to work in the ER because it was so busy and it required work. Weird, huh?
Yeah.
But I loved it because a 12.5-hour shift, I'm done, I'm home, and then I just pass out. I get that adrenaline rush that I got from the helicopter, and we'd have some nights multiple codes a night coming in, and I'm there working with the physicians. I'm at the head of the bed. I get to see everything, and I was a little bit older then. A lot of the nurses had just graduated school. I had been through the military. So now these things that I had done before are starting to become positives I started looking at them as positives instead of negatives. Before it was, I'm just some dumb military guy with no education. And now it's, no, I've seen some shit. I've done some shit.
If you have a heroic story and you'd like to share it, get in contact with us. Our information's in the bio. Also, don't forget to hit the subscribe, like, and share. And then I'll see you on the next episode, badasses.